You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's me, the 29th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. I'm live here at paceradio.net and at 420pace.ca. You notice I'm all by myself. Cindy's not in today. Cindy is busy with an animal rescue, and here's hoping that her and her friends are successful in helping this animal. Other than that, for us today, I have some stories that include a worldwide joint rolling contest. You got to hear about this. This is for everybody, not just people in certain cities or certain towns. This is for the world, as well as how much cannabis is being sold here in Ontario and what magic mushrooms can do for Parkinson's disease. But first, we're going to head to BC, where MLA has asked a question that many people have asked. Where's all the collected cannabis tax money? Here we go. This is from StratCan. BC, MLA questions Minister of Finance on cannabis tax revenue and enforcement. Story starts with cannabis tax revenue was among the topics Kamloops Centre MLA Peter Milobar brought up in debate with BC's Minister of Finance, Brenda Bailey, in the legislature on May the 26th. Now, Milobar, a member of the BC Conservative Party, was questioning the BC NDP MLA Bailey on several issues related to the BC and 2025 budget release in March. Milobar's questions about cannabis related to the province's 75% share of the federal cannabis excise tax, which was forecast to be about $110 million a year over the next few years, and how it is being spent, as well as double standards in the province's enforcement of its own regulations. Now, first, in reference to the BC's expected $110 million a year over the next few years, and how it was spent, as well as the double standard in the province's enforcement and own regulations. It says in reference to BC's expected $110 million for its share of the federal cannabis excise tax of $1 a gram, Milobar asked if the provincial government was sharing this with the BC municipalities. From a lot of people, when all this came out years ago, federal government gave 75% to the provinces. A lot of the provinces, as far as we knew, a lot of people knew that would be put down, shared down to the municipalities in order to help cover the costs of enforcement. So it says the Minister of Finance responded that it does not share this revenue with municipalities. They don't. It all stays in the provincial coffers, which the Kamloops Centre MLA said was an expectation of the Union of BC Municipalities, which has been calling on the province to share the revenue since legalization has begun. Now, BC's Minister of Finance disputed that this was ever a part of the agreement that it made with municipalities or with the federal government. Although not officially part of the federal provincial territory agreement, Canada's Department of Finance has said in the past that its expectation is that substantial portion of the revenues be transferred to local communities. Several other provinces, such as right here in Ontario, Quebec, and Alberta, they shared the revenue with the municipalities. In 2020, the Union of BC Municipalities reported that a survey of its membership revealed $11.5 million in incremental local government costs per year for the 3 years following cannabis legalization. Now, a representative from the BC's Ministry of Finance has previously told Strachan that cannabis excise tax revenue goes into the province's Consolidated Revenue Fund for programs like healthcare, education, and childcare. Now, as of May the 1st, 2025, the BC government has received $419.3 million of the share of those taxes based on the sales through December of 2024. Wholesale cannabis sales in BC in the first 3 months of 2025 were $114 million, which is an average price of $3.79 a gram. Now, they say there's lost revenue at the First Nations stores, maybe. Now, Milbar's second line of questioning in regards to cannabis was about the apparent lack of enforcement of the province's own retail cannabis regulations when it comes to many on-reserve stores. The Conservative MLA wanted to know how much lost revenue this relative lack of enforcement represented for the province. What is the revenue loss that the Ministry of Finance has calculated on a yearly basis for not enforcing the rules as to pertain to cannabis, unlike trying to enforce the rules that pertain to tobacco or liquor? I know out in BC, they've raided the First Nations stores on the reserves. Now, they haven't raided them all, but I know that they have raided them. I know here in Ontario, they haven't touched them. So now, Bailey avoided directly answering the question, but I know that the Ministry of Finance does not investigate cannabis like they do tobacco, and deflecting to the federal government when it comes to their collection of the cannabis excise tax. The federal government distributes this tax based on reported sales in each province except for Manitoba, which opted out of the tax sharing agreement signed by all other provinces and territories. Now, it says here that the investigation unit within the Ministry of Finance does not investigate cannabis. I previously mentioned Kamloops area enforcement. We were involved because of the tobacco side. It was a work with the police, and they were involved in regards to cannabis and tobacco. Also, it's actually the CRA who collects the excise tax in cannabis, not the province. So they're responsible for enforcement from the tax perspective. And in the province, the Secretary General is responsible for looking at enforcement from a legal perspective. That's all from Bailey. Now, RCMP and Milbar's riding recently raided 2 unlicensed cannabis stores on or near First Nations reserve lands. I mentioned that just a few minutes ago. Although such enforcement actions remain relatively uncommon, while the BC government has maintained that only cannabis stores that it has licensed are allowed to sell cannabis in the province, enforcement among unlicensed stores operating on First Nation reserve lands tends to be not to be a priority for provincial enforcement officers. Now, according to Google Maps, currently lists a half dozen such stores on First Nations lands near Kamloops, and dozens more operate around the province, especially the interior around Kamloops. Let's see. The BC Minister of Public Safety back in 2023 said the Provincial Cannabis Enforcement Agency has also conducted 9 enforcement actions on First Nation reserves in the province, seizing about $12 million in product. So there's more than just that 1 or 2. There's obviously, the CSU's been doing it. Now, the CSU has also conducted 368 educational visits. So that means that they just stopped in and said, hey, we know what's going on here, and we're just warning you, resulting in the closures of 238 unlicensed stores. CSU has investigated 1,657 websites involved in the illegal sale of cannabis and has disrupted 1,054 of those websites. It has seized a total of $39 million worth of cannabis, the bulk which was in 2019 to 2022. So there you go. Where is the tax money? Apparently, it's in a slush fund, and it may be going to healthcare. It may be going to childcare. They're not 100% sure. other than past reports. So, all right, we're heading over to the UK, over there to London, England, because the London mayor supports the Commission's recommendation to decriminalize cannabis. This is coming to me from the International Cannabis Business Conference. It says that in 2022, London Mayor Sadiq Khan, I'm just going to call him Mayor Khan, established the Independent London Drugs Commission, tasking the commission with examining cannabis policies in England's capital city and other jurisdictions. The commission recently published its findings and recommended that personal cannabis possession be decriminalized, and it's a recommendation that Mayor Khan reportedly supports. The quote here says the report follows detailed analysis of written and oral evidence from over 200 experts and academics from London, the UK, and around the world. Lord Volkner and his deputies were assisted by leading experts from criminal justice, public health, community relations, and drug policy, and supported by academics from University College London, and the London Drugs Commission stated about its methodology. Inclusion of cannabis as a Class B drug in the Misuse of Drugs Act is disproportionate to the harms it can pose relative to other drugs controlled by the Act. The sentencing options currently available, especially for personal possession, cannot be justified when balanced against the longer-term aspects or impacts of experience of the justice system, including stop and search, or of serving a criminal sentence can have on a person, the commission stated about its report. Sir Khan said current rules cannot be justified, adding that the commission's findings had provided a compelling evidence-based case for decriminalization, reported the BBC. Now, the outlet also stated that the commission recommended supporting fair access to medical cannabis, including addressing cost barriers and expanding research. There's piles and piles of kids that are waiting for access, and I'm talking about kids that need it medicinally for seizures and stuff. There's hundreds and hundreds of them that are waiting. The cannabis policy modernization recommendations are not supported by the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, who stated that cannabis reform is a matter for Parliament and his officers will keep working to our current law. Adult use cannabis legalization in the UK could generate as much as £1.5 in revenue and savings, according to the previous report of the advocacy group Transform Drug Policy Foundation. That's £1.5 billion, not million, billion. The report, which was published on the organization's social media account back in March, determined that over £1.2 billion could be generated from taxes and fees annually, and an additional $284 million would be saved annually by the nation's criminal justice system, no longer enforcing cannabis prohibition policies. And it ends up with, there would be costs incurred by government, by regulatory infrastructure, inspection, monitoring, compliance, trading standards, etc., but largely covered by licensing and other fees, according to the organization. That's what they stated. So there you go. London, England, maybe getting decriminalization of cannabis. Who knows what that would entail? You know, decriminalization could mean different things. Some people look at it as it being legal. Some people look at it as you could get a fine. You know, if you're getting a fine, you're still being penalized for cannabis, right? So, okay. Now, as we got started, the news this morning, it's talked about a rolling contest, a joint rolling contest. Here we go, right here. Headline. It's in the marijuana moment. Headline says, first ever marijuana speed rolling competition launches, turning cannabis culture into a spectator sport. So is it just a regular joint rolling contest? What's going on? It says its first of its kind cannabis competition is launching to put its very specific skill, rolling joints, to the test. And it's called Rolling Derby, which was founded by a group of cannabis industry veterans, announced on Wednesday that they have organized a series of speed rolling tournaments where adults 21 and older can compete against each other virtually or in person to see who can successfully fashion a joint the fastest. At its core, the Rolling Derby is an authentic celebration of speed, craft, and culture, challenging participants to roll the perfect joint against the clock, according to the group. They said this in a press release. The inaugural season will feature both a global online competition open to cannabis enthusiasts worldwide, as well as a series of high-profile live events across California venues. So how do you do this? We're going to find out. This is sponsored by Raw Rolling Papers, and the competitions will last 4 months, with a championship final where the top 16 fastest joint rollers will compete. Submissions to enter the tournament opened on Wednesday, yesterday, and will be accepted through June the 30th. To enter, prospective competitors must post a video of themselves rolling a 1-gram joint, starting with a whole nug on, you guys do this on X or on YouTube with the hashtag Rolling Derby. Just so you know, I went there yesterday. It only started yesterday. I went to the Rolling Derby hashtag on YouTube, and there wasn't anything there yet. A lot of it was horse derbies. So keep an eye on that. Uh-oh, we're jumping around here, folks. Okay. Come on, marijuana moment. I got to get this story out. Okay. Sponsored by Raw Papers, 16K. Submissions, I mentioned all that. Oh, come on. Okay. The Rolling Derby turns what happens every day in millions of homes into a spectator sport that celebrates real craftsmanship, says Dean Arbit. He's the CEO of Bud.com. It's an e-commerce platform that's running this competition. We're taking something that's part of the cannabis culture's DNA and elevating it to showcase the incredible dexterity and expertise that goes into a perfect roll. That this isn't just about speed. It's really about bringing deserved recognition to a foundational skill. Now, the tournament is being built as a unique opportunity for cannabis brands to get involved and connect with cannabis consumers who could get a look at their products as competitors grind and roll them. Uh-oh, come on. Now, the Rolling Derby celebrates the real artistry of rolling culture, and that is what Raw is all about, according to Josh Kesselman, founder and CEO of Raw Rolling Papers. He says, I created Raw to let the true rolling and smoking experience shine through. And this competition is about showcasing that same authentic craft. For the past two decades, we've worked hard to make Raw brand synonymous with rolling experience or excellence. And we're thrilled to always support the culture that supported us from day one. He goes on to say, we all get higher together. Cannabis brands have used a variety of novel potential promotional tools. There's the Toker's Guide that had the job listings, and there's others that did a 420 volunteers to come roll some pre-roll joints. But yeah, come on, it's gone. You go. It's the end of the story. I'll just pull it off there. That's too bad. So, joint rolling contest based on speed and appearance. And good morning, buddy. How you doing? And yeah, get what you got to do. Basically, there is a website. Can I think of it right now? No. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. And it does have the information. as far as how you can do this and how you can do it. Okay, I've got the website up right here, so I'm just going to pull this up, and that way everybody can take a look. If this interests you, you want to get involved in this, it can be easily done at home. Okay, so here we go. So how to do this? This is online derby rules. Okay, you need 1 gram of flour. Start with the whole nugs. Okay, you can't be pre-ground. Gotta be gram of flour. If you want a paper tip or crutch, prepare that in advance. Okay, you can do that ahead of time, but you cannot grind your bud. All right, pulling out the rolling paper starts the clock. Keep your hands in the frame at all times. Grind and shred flour after the timer is running. Show your empty grinder after grinding. Roll into king-sized rolling paper. And they say that 1 gram does not fit well in a 1.25 paper. Declare when you're done and hold up your creation. Too much excess material left behind can add time. Now, your video guidelines. Portrait style. So straight up and down. Most phones, straight up and down. We need to see your hands and workspace. Seeing your face in the shot is nice too. Good to see the video with a brief personal introduction. And you do this before you pull the paper, all right? Here are some suggestions. They suggest your name, maybe get a handle, fake name, where you're from, where you can be found online, and maybe your joint rolling philosophy, etc., etc. Now you got to upload your video to X or YouTube with the hashtag Rolling Derby, and you can also send the video to them if you have no way of uploading it. So there you go. And they said they will be calling out winners for speed, style, humor, and selected entrants will be chosen for timed bracket competition starting July the 1st. And you can even see there's a clock there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into the chat, and that way if anybody's interested in this, they can see for themselves all the information. I did this last night on the Pace Radio Show as well, because who knows, maybe we got somebody here that's good at that. G'day, Gordo. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you here. Just so you know, Rev Cindy, she's out doing animal rescues this morning. So, but yeah, there you go. First ever fastest joint rolling contest. All the information is there, and check. All right, on to the next story. This one's coming to me from the MJ Biz Daily, and the headline says U.S. Supreme Court is the next stop for challenge to federal marijuana prohibition, and it's got to end. Come on. Here we go. A federal appeals court on Tuesday rejected a constitutional challenge to U.S. cannabis prohibition brought by a coalition of regulated cannabis companies. The ruling was expected. Also expected and planned all along is the plaintiff's intention to seek Supreme Court review of the case, Attorney Jonathan Schiller told Reuters. Now, Chicago-based multi-state operator Verano Holdings and 3 Massachusetts-based plaintiffs sued the U.S. Department of Justice in October 2023, alleging that federal marijuana prohibition under the Controlled Substances Act is no longer constitutional. As MJ Biz Daily reported, at that time, the plaintiff's goal from the beginning was to get the case before the U.S. Supreme Court, where justices in 2005 upheld Congress's power to outlaw cannabis federally despite state-level reform. Now it is a different court now, just so you know. To get that case back to the Supreme Court, the company's hired prominent law firm Boyce Schiller, whose principals include litigator David Boyce, who has argued other cases before the highest court. In addition to Verano, the applicants are Canna Provisions, a Massachusetts cannabis retailer, Gaius Sellers, the CEO of Tree Vet Delivery Service, and Wise Acre Farm, who is a cultivator. Now, the crux of their argument is that conditions have changed so much since the High Court's 2005 ruling. More than 24 states have legalized adult use cannabis, that the factual basis of that ruling no longer exists. The case also references comments made in a separate case in 2021 by Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who suggested federal marijuana law might not be necessary or proper. That's interesting. During oral arguments in December, Boss contended that congressional action since the 2005 ruling, including a budget rider protecting medical cannabis businesses from federal prosecution, means that federal lawmakers no longer intend to ban interstate cannabis commerce. But so far, that argument has failed in this case. First in the U.S. District Court last year, and now at the First U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals on Tuesday. In their appeal, the companies argued that the U.S. Constitution affords them a right to cultivate and transact in cannabis that is deeply rooted in the nation's history and its legal traditions. The Controlled Substances Act violates the Fifth Amendment's rights to due process. Now, U.S. First Circuit Chief Judge David Behrens rejected both arguments, noting in part that adult use cannabis did not exist when the 2005 Supreme Court was considered. Well, it was going on, I can tell you that. Further, Barron added the judges know of no authority that affords constitutional protections to an activity that is not otherwise protected by the Fifth Amendment, solely because many states in recent times provided legislative protections for that activity. So let's hope that it can get to the Supreme Court. And it sounds like I think that it looks like the next step. Good to see you, Gordo. It's good to see you guys, Buddy and Gordo, talking back and forth there together, chatting away. All right. I am done the first half of the show, and it's time for me to take a break, for me to get some medication into me. And after that, we'll get into some more stories. What have we got next? There's a city that's fining for cannabis smells and how much cannabis has been sold here in the province of Ontario. We've got that going on too. So other than that, you're watching Psychedelics Cannabis Educational News. I'm live here at paceradio.net and 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Camelford Lifestyle Shop, open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Camelford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Camelford, Ontario.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Re-rolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
All right, I'm back from the break, ready to bring you some more psychedelics and cannabis educational news. And just so you know, I see some comments during the break there, and Buddy Weeds posted that I like this song. I'm having an awesome day. Just so you know, Buddy, that song is actually sang and written by the host of the Mushy Moment, Steve Mathers. That's his song. That's him singing away there. So and if you see the Mushy Moment on, pipe in and let him know that, hey, love your song, and I will pass on the message to him as well. So, all right, here we go. We got 4 more stories to cover, and this one is a good story. This comes to me from GreenState.com. It says, this city is giving residents cannabis thanks to weed. Cannabis reform is often passed with promises of new tax revenue to put into the city. Every state has raked in boatloads of tax revenue poured into various causes like addiction services in school. One place in New Mexico has granted the most straightforward way yet. Albuquerque is cutting checks to its residents, focusing first on those who live in vulnerable communities. New mothers, people of color, and trans people are among those focused on the first wave of no strings attached checks from the Cannabis Tax Fund. It says this program, according to the mayor, in the press release, says that this program puts money where it's needed most, into the hands of struggling families working to build a better future. Albuquerque is a city that will always fight to correct injustices and will push to help families get the tools they need to succeed with dignity. Now, how is all this going to work? The first group to receive checks include 80 households. Each will receive $750 per month for 3 years. A second wave will join the initiative eventually, including 20 additional families and 40 opportunity youth. Now, Mayor Keller established the initiative as part of a promise to address racial disparities in the area. The program has tasked the City of Albuquerque's Office of Equity and Inclusion with adequately doling out the $4 million allocated to the Cannabis Equity and Community Reinvestment Fund. This is the first of many steps to spend the money as intended. Director Sonia Lara says in a release that families are creative problem solvers. This program gives them the power to make choices that create stability and opportunity. Across the country, guaranteed income programs are changing lives, and we're bringing that impact to Albuquerque. $750 a month for up to 100 families. Cohort members will receive this financial assistance alongside financial counseling through the Office of Financial Empowerment. This piece hopes to set everyone up for success once the 3-year program ends. Many who dream of cannabis legalization that includes taxation sees a future where the industry makes the community a better place, and the city of Albuquerque seems to be putting its money where the need is. So there you go. $750 a month for 3 years to help out up to 100 families and youth that need help. So that's always a good thing. No doubt about that. All righty. See, the guys are keeping up the conversation there. Gordo's in Scotland, and he's looking at starting March, getting involved in advocacy there, and the two of them are chatting back and forth to get things going. So that's good. All right. So how much cannabis is being sold in good old Ontario? Right here we got 700 some odd stores, so on and so forth. And we're going to go. StratCan tells us Ontario sold more than $2.15 billion worth of cannabis in 2024. How big's our province? Well, it takes 24 hours to drive across. I can tell you that much. The cannabis stores in Ontario sold nearly 409 million grams of cannabis in 2024, worth more than $2.15 billion in sales. That's an 11.3% increase from the previous year. The 432,495,489 grams of cannabis the OCS shipped to cannabis stores in the province was a 16% increase compared to 2023. And 106,691,440 units, which is a 14% year-over-year increase. The price of cannabis continued to decline in 2024, while the number of Ontarians who say they only buy legal cannabis has continued to increase. The cannabis pre-rolls were the most commonly distributed unit, followed by dried flower and then edibles. Edibles surpassed dried flower in terms of units shipped to retailers for the first time in the last few months of 2024. Wow, that's a big change, I'll tell you. Now, infused pre-rolls and vapes continue to compete for the fourth and fifth most distributed units, followed by beverages, concentrates, caps, and oils, topicals, and then seeds. While the amount of units of infused and non-infused pre-rolls increased in 2024 compared to 23, along with edibles, vapes, beverages, and concentrate, dried flower SKUs decreased. Wow. You can see the charts going on there. Yeah. Okay. It says vapes once again received the most complaints by product category, with 71% of the 2,334 complaints received by the OCS. This was followed by dry flower at 16%, extracts at 9%, and edibles at 4%. The most commonly sold vape product was again the 510 thread vape carts, with 76% of vapes sold, while disposables were 22%, which is up from 12.7%. Now, as of December 31st, there was 5,192 active SKUs listed by the OCS, and there were 3,380 new ones added and 2,171 dropped. So that's a number of different products. One half of these active SKUs are dried flowers or pre-rolls. Another 15% were vapes, 11% were infused pre-rolls, 7% were edibles, 5% were concentrates, which includes distillate, hash, kiff, shatter, and wax. 4% were beverages, 4% were extracts, which were capsules, bottled oils, soft gels, and oral sprays, and 2% were topicals. Dried flower, pre-rolls, vapes, and infused pre-roll sales all increased year over year. Now, on average, the wholesale price per gram of dried flower, that's without the HST, including the dried flower and pre-rolls, was $3.81 in Ontario, which is down from $4.05. There was also an increase in the percentage of Ontarians reporting buying only legal cannabis in 2024, with 61% of Ontario cannabis consumers saying they only buy legal cannabis, which is up from 54%. I buy from all three markets. The number of cannabis stores increased by just 6 in 2024. That's totaling 720 right here in Ontario. The most significant change was in the Toronto area, which saw 40 new stores in this period, while Toronto itself had 43 fewer stores than the previous years. So the GTA, which is the area around Toronto, so they increased. In the Toronto itself, it went down. Now, the Ontario portion of the federal cannabis excise duty, talking about taxes, from the 2022-2024 budget brought in $656 million. And the province projects another $376 million in 2024-2025. And the Ontario cannabis store income was $234 million in 2022-2023, and $244 the next year. Now, they expect a decrease this year, whether it's because of the price reductions, maybe it could be why. Who knows? So, but that's a lot of buds. There's no doubt about that are being sold. See, yeah, exactly. Even Buddy was shot. He says edibles higher than flower. Wow. I guess that such low dose people have to consume more and buy more. You got her, buddy. You got her, exactly. All right. Okay, gonna move on to the next story. And this time we're gonna be talking about some magic mushrooms, because in Varsity, headline there says, "What can magic mushrooms do for Parkinson's disease?" You know, every time we can find good studies like this, or information like this, get it out. Even if we might have repeated it, you might have had a story similar to this last week. It comes out in another news organization or another release someplace, and they could have some updated information in it. And who knows, maybe somebody who missed the first time it was out will catch it on the second time. So, psilocybin mushrooms, better known as magic mushrooms or shrooms, have been widely known for the hallucinogenic properties since as early as the 16th century, from their origins as the mysterious sacred mushrooms of Central America to their current status as prohibited but recreationally abused drugs in the UK. The history of magic mushrooms use has provided fascinating insights into their effects on the human brain, as unexpected revolution from a recent clinical trial has sparked great excitement for their clinical use of magic mushrooms in patients with Parkinson's disease. But how do magic mushrooms exert their magic effects on the brain and in potential treatments for neurodegenerative disease? The psilocybin, as it is just part of magic mushrooms, is thought to provide these recreational medicines with their magical properties through its conversion into psilocin, which binds to a specific receptor in the brain for serotonin, which is a hormone involved in mood boosting. Among many other functions, studies have suggested that psilocybin's impact on the brain is to disrupt the normal connections between neurons in brain hubs, which are critical for cognitive functions such as abstract thought, attention, and memory. The reduced ability or activity in these brain hubs during the use of psilocybin is thought to allow the users to enter into a state of unhindered cognition, leading to the sensory distortion and altered state of consciousness associated with psychedelic substance abuse. However, the aim of psilocybin administration in patients with Parkinson's disease is quite distinct with that of recreational drug users. The recent clinical trial investigating the use of psilocybin therapy in Parkinson's patients aimed to show a reversal of motor dysfunction characteristic of this neurodegenerative disease while also treating the mood dysfunction, which often precedes the development of motor symptoms such as tremors and muscle stiffness. Although poorly understood, it is thought that once converted into psilocybin reduces the brain inflammation seen in disease sufferers, while also promoting a burst of nerve cell growth, restructuring the brain's architecture by forming new connections between nerve cells. This provides different outcomes to those of recreational drug users because Parkinson's patients show a significant loss of nerve cells in the brain that produce dopamine, which is a chemical messenger involved in regulating our movements, emotions, and memories. Patients also tend to show an elevated amount of serotonin removal from the body, allowing for psilocybin to increase serotonin signaling in the brain through binding to its receptors, improving symptoms of depression. How likely is it that magic mushroom therapy will provide a breakthrough for the treatment of Parkinson's disease? While the 12 participants of the psilocybin trial experienced significant and rapid improvement to both motor and non-motor functions of the disease, persisting for a month after the final administration of psilocybin, it is difficult to draw conclusions from such a small sample. So yeah, we need more research. Additionally, study participants were chosen for the absence of psychotic symptoms prior to psilocybin therapy, which raises the question, could magic mushrooms therapy induce further hallucinatory symptoms in Parkinson's patients already suffering from psychosis? Well, the only way to do it is to do testing. Now, the lack of ethnic diversity across participants in the trial, which is also a problem, also provides further uncertainty as to whether the effectiveness of psilocybin will be reflected in more representative of the population of Parkinson's patients in future trials. Furthermore, the study used psilocybin therapy in combination with psychotherapy sessions that makes it difficult to attribute improvements in symptoms to psilocybin alone. Well, they're going to have to keep doing some more testing, I guess. And they say that there is no cure for Parkinson's disease. The underlying causes of dopamine nerve cell death in the brain are poorly understood, and as a result, current treatments focus on improving the symptoms of Parkinson's and maintaining a high quality of life for patients suffering from this disease. While psilocybin therapy for Parkinson's shows promising results for improving symptoms of depression and motor dysfunction in early stages of the disease progression, it is yet another example of therapy that fails to treat its underlying cause. This does not mean that psilocybin therapy is a dead end in treating Parkinson's. The more medicines available for this disease, the more opportunities there are for patients to receive treatments best suited for managing their individual symptoms. The hope is that further clinical trials will continue to show the beneficial effects of psilocybin therapy in a wider presentation of Parkinson's patients, while the research progresses towards finding an eventual cure. Yeah, exactly. It may not work for everybody. We've said that about cannabis for years. Cannabis won't work for everybody. Psilocybin might not work for everybody. But yeah, there were some shortcomings there, which happens when some studies. And as I say, future studies. When they said the number was that low, I knew that it's low. So they're going to need to do more research, and it's where you start, right? Find one good spot and then expand from there. So, all right, last story of the day coming up. This is someone's handing out fines for smelling like weed. Here we go. This is coming to me from Green State, and it says headline, smelling like weed gets you fined in this country. Yep, the scent of cannabis has raised contention around the world. If a person does not use a personal filter, smoking and vaping weed emit a smell. Working at a production facility We'll have most going homes reeking of pots. A cannabis farm will likely emit an aroma to the surrounding area late in flowering. Connoisseurs may love it, but not everyone, is a fan. We know that. Cannabis smell has become a part of the not in my backyard or NIMBY attitude in some states or neighborhoods lash out against operations. That stinks up the area. In others, it is a law enforcement tool that may be used to prosecute black and brown people whose cars may emit a weed scent during a routine traffic stop. Now the problem of policing cannabis smell is cropping up overseas. Malta legalized cannabis in the final days of 2021, allowing the law to home cultivation and personal use. Consumption is allowed inside of private residence. This access may shrink for many after a list of cannabis ordinances was passed in the country. The Maltese Parliament unanimously passed a group of cannabis amendments, one of which is garnering some negative attention. Malta Today reports any cannabis odor that causes a nuisance to third parties will now be liable to a penalty of about $256, which is 235 euros. It is unclear whether officials will define what is officially deemed a public nuisance. It appears this will be dictated by individual neighbors and responding law enforcement. The ordinance also sets new requirement distance from schools and parks for anyone growing cannabis. Those who live within 250 meters of a school or program will be stripped of their home grow rights. Stripped, because just where you live. This is not the ordinance driving the amendments. The legal challenge, the changes define cannabis to set a line between psychoactive and non-psychoactive cannabinoids. It also increases fines for allowing minors into the premises. Those have not elicited the same arguments as the proposed smell and home grow changes, which advocates are certain violate promises made throughout the Maltese legalization process. And fines for allowing teen or minors into the premises. If you're growing in your house, or I don't know, maybe not allowed to grow in your house, who knows? Cannabis advocacy group Relief Malta and Movement Graffiti issued a joint statement expressing that the ordinances threaten privacy rights. They assert that someone should not worry that a joint they smoke in their home could result in a fine if their neighbors find it a nuisance. Yeah, exactly. Police Commissioner Angelo Gaffey shared his apprehensions about the pending odor violations with a Maltese television program called Extra. And she explained that enforcing this ordinance is very difficult. He admitted that he could not decipher the smell of a cigar, joint, or vape from one another. The official pointed out that the police force is not scent trained, and iterated that the parliament must pass ordinances that can be logically enforced. Yep. A somewhat similar case was tried in the D.C. Court of Appeals in 2023. The court barred an elderly man for smoking cannabis in his basement apartment in perpetuity after a neighbor complained about the wafting smoke giving her headaches. A judge ruled that if he smoked in that space again, he would be held in contempt of court. This is similar to the situation playing out in Malta, where neighbors can now decide whether they are bothered by gathering smoke. The smell of cannabis has stirred up conversations overall. It is unknown how this law will be enforced, especially since the police commissioner remains unsure. As they figure it out, Maltese owners may want to invest in some smoke-removing candles or air filters. Now, as far as this is, a country and putting that law in effect, but right here, it's legal in Canada. Can you imagine paying $1.5 million for a condo and finding out that in the condo contract that you're not allowed to smoke cannabis in your own home? Because that's what happens. It happens right here. People, buy condos in Toronto, wherever. Condo board says that we don't like the smell, whether the smell is being coming through the door. There were some reports of it leaking through the walls, ventilation systems, all that stuff. And yeah, it's just not right. Yeah. I got some comments here from Gordo and Buddy Weeds. And Buddy says there's so many problems with the legal market. There are problems. And the only way that we can get those problems fixed is by people speaking up and saying something. And Gordo, yeah, he says our plant is the key to everything. Tree of life, right? And yeah, Buddy, I completely agree. A lot of advancements in mushrooms therapy. Great to see. Yeah. Still prosecuting people for things cannabis related. They'll never learn. It'll never happen. I don't think it'll ever be like free like tomatoes, as so many people. And a message from Buddy to Gordo. He says, this is why it's so important to change where you live, change things where you live. And yeah, so there you go, Gordo. Hopefully you get some momentum going up, and it doesn't happen overnight, but keep plugging away at things, and hopefully you can get something rolling there in Scotland. So, all right. Other than that, that's the news for today. And thanks to our buds, Camelford Lifestyle Shop at ease.ca and limestonecityhydroponics.ca. In closing, I'd like to say thank you for watching or listening, because this does go out as an audio podcast after I'm done. And yeah, Gordo, you're right. Yeah, stay safe at all times, folks. And other than that, educate. Do not incarcerate. I think I got the other half out. I don't know. Talk to you all next week. Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.